All right, welcome back for the episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Friday, April 14th, 2023. If you're not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. First off, I am doing a Twitter space here at 4:30 with my good friend Josh from Crypto Fundamentals. If you guys want to attend that, I understand it's a Friday afternoon, so some of you may not be able to make it. If you want to come out, though, that will be on his page at 4:30. So I'm doing the video a little bit on the early side. We're just going to have a little chat about markets, and we might even make it a weekly thing. So we'll see if we can, how the turnout is. But anyways, let's get into the charts here. So markets down a little over 0.5% on pretty much both fronts here on the spiders and the triple Qs. Dow is down 0.75%. So we had a lot of data this morning. Retail sales that came in, and that was it was very interesting. It was colder than expected, but rates came down anyway. Waller, a lot of those Fed presidents were jawboning this morning, and they really jawboned that 2-year down. So the 2-year yield got a bid. And you can see that it's at 4.023 here on the futures. If we look at the actual 2-year, it's actually at 4.09 currently. So the futures are a little bit different there, but the current is 4.099. But either way, that got a bid this morning, and that gave the dollar a bid. Markets were able to still open higher. There was basically a buy the dip open. And I did tweet this out this morning as well as I look for profit taking around 10 a.m. And that's exactly what happened. We had the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey come in and basically forecasting more inflation. And then the dollar index got a bid and the yields continued higher. So, there was a catalyst for a pullback, but the chart suggested we were going to pull back anyway. And we did all the way back to essentially, if we look on the spiders intraday here, we'll go to it's 10 minutes. So you can see, we basically retraced all the way to where we broke out from yesterday. So complete 100% round trip to that area. And now we're just, hovering off the lows. We're probably just going to finish sideways for the most part into the end of the day. If we take a look at the weekly, kind of an uneventful candle. It's like you tried to break out and came back in though. So a little bit going on there. Unable to confirm above this trend line. Doesn't mean it's broken. Just doesn't mean that. It just means that we haven't been able to push through it. And to be fair, there's still a lot of, chop up here, right? So there was buyers up here that were trapped. There was buyers that FOMO'd in hardcore on that ridiculous gap up on the FOMC or after the FOMC, and they're stuck in there. So this market can still go higher if we consolidate, but it may need to do a little bit more backing and filling if it wants to push up. Again, nothing's really changed here for me. Again, I'm still in the camp that we should be able to hold up into Opex, and that's probably what we're going to do. I don't really see anything otherwise that says otherwise here, but again, we still have those yellow to red flags. SMH red today. It's holding that green bar there on the daily, but you could make a case that this is a slight down move and then a sideways pattern here, which could be bearish there. And again, if we flip our trend lines back on, you can see we broke that trend line, that little rising wedge the other day, and we've stayed below that, and we have a much bigger one that's starting to tighten up here. So again, if we get down to this area, you could get one more bid. I can't rule that out, but this is on borrowed time. And again, those transports there, they're green today in a down tape. We can't take anything away here, but lower highs versus the higher highs. Well, this one's not a higher high yet, but you got higher high, higher high. You get the idea. Transport's lagging in a big way. Now, of course, this morning, big shot in the arm for the market. JP Morgan, that's holding gains too. So that's up 7.25%. It's amazing what you can do when you can just, monopolize essentially and consolidate all of the, the banking sector. So they reported obviously really good earnings. Bank of America obviously getting a sympathy bid. Wells Fargo as well, although Wells Fargo now back negative, down now 0.5% there, so that's a little bit weak here. Citigroup holding up nicely, up over 4%. KRE, lots of weakness here. And again, this just suggests more consolidation in the sector. It's still above this low here, but that's a pretty weak candle there on the daily. I mean, you just kind of engulfed the last 4 sessions. So you basically engulfed the whole week there, and we're going to close at the lows of the week there. On the KBE, same thing with the KBE. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. XLF is up nicely because JPM makes up a big portion of it. as well as Berkshire, which is also higher, but did come way off the highs there. Berkshire is a little overbought here. But anyways, markets are holding up. I don't really see any issues right now, like I've said, but there will be some moving forward. So not in the immediate near term, but in the next couple of weeks, I think this market starts to get vulnerable, but no problems here. No confirmation above this trend line. And again, a little bit more neutral going into Opex week, but the market structurally is holding up. You see the triple Qs there. There's still that little gap up there to fill. And then if you get through that, there's one up at 329. So we'll watch for those levels potentially next week. If you lose this level here, you lose that 20 moving average. The Qs get interesting though. I'll say, you got a big gap there at 307. And if we flip over to the spiders, if you lose 405.50, really 404, then that really gets interesting down to 400 and then probably 395. So again, though, I'm not expecting that just yet, but that will happen, but maybe not just yet. I do think they hold us up here for one more week though. But anyways, over the Russell IWM here, again, outside move, closing at the lows of the day, essentially. A lot of regional banks, so KRE is down. Good chance the Russell's going to be down, and that is the case here. This is also a problem. Weekly bear flag. This is not bull market stuff. I don't care what anyone tells you. It's not a bull market. Just because FANG has had a nice move off the lows, and really that's the only sector that's really doing well here this year for the most part. But just because FANG has had a nice move off the lows doesn't mean we're in a bull market. The IWM is a huge problem, and it's telling us something about the strength of the market and the economy. Dow here hanging in there okay. Inside day, United Health took a big hit today, so that is dragging the Dow down, as well as Boeing. So those are two big Dow components there. Remember, the Dow's price cap weighted, so that was dragged down a little bit more than normal. And by the way, I told you guys, sent this out, XLV, I said, you want to take a shot right up here, 135. Not getting a nice pullback off that area, as UNH coming in very sharply down to that 510 handle. But anyways, let's get over to the semis. We already talked about that a little bit. Again, I believe they're on borrowed time here. Lots of rumblings about Taiwan right now. There's lots of stuff going on here. Buffett, I don't know if you guys saw that interview the other day, but he basically, my assessment of that interview is he basically caught himself from saying something he didn't want to say, which is, he basically got asked, why did you sell Taiwan Semi, all your shares? Yeah, I mean, they liquidated their whole holding of TSM. And he basically just stumbled over the question. But it seemed like he was about to say why, and then he caught himself. Now you've got senators buying puts on TSM, so I don't know. So that's, something to keep an eye on. And you got China circling the island right now, so... But anyways, here's cloud software, down 0.5%. Nothing's wrong here. This can still get to 310 if the market bids up. Dow Transports, we already talked about lower highs. It's been a lagging sector. That's not a good sign moving forward. We talked about AAL. That's a dog of a chart right there. That does have some support down here, but that's a bear flag breakdown. Delta reporting yesterday as well. That did come off the lows here, but I don't like these jets. I don't like the trucking names. JB Hunt, weekly bear flag. Ryder Systems, weekly bear flag. XPO Logistics, below the 200, below the 50, below the 100. Not a great chart here. So transports are, a problem here moving forward. Anyways, let's get over to rates. We already talked about the two-year coming back in a little bit, down 25 bips. If this starts to really break down, and let's look at the yield again. If you start pushing up, this is going to be problematic. But right now the market's okay. But if this starts to push up, it's going to put pressure on the Fed here. But for right now, we're fine. 2-year, it did back off quite a bit today. The Fed, speakers jawboned it down. You see the 10-year down 50 basis points on the note there. So, nothing terrible here. There's not, patterns aren't broken. ZB there, the 30-year, the pattern's not broken. It's just fine here. But, again, I'm expecting yields. Essentially, I'm with the Fed here, higher for longer, basically. So, anyways, let's get over to housing, XHB. First of all, here, basically flat. Nothing really to say. Lower highs there, equal lows, could be making up a descending triangle. So let's watch that. Let's get rid of this trend line. This has been violated too many times. Let's go right here. And you notice how we have equal lows. Basically right here at that 64 handle. So we'll see if this continues to make lower highs. It's going to knock on that door a few more times. Eventually that will break. So watch that pattern there on XHB, ITB, holding up much better. That's up 5 basis points. Nothing's really changed too much there. VNQ outside move down, weak move here. Failed inside bar. This is a weak name in a weak environment. I don't really see anything good here. It's going to need to put in a good showing next week. But that's a failed bull flag there. So this should go lower, and you've got some gaps to fill. So VNQ definitely on the weaker side. I would avoid that one right now. XLF, we did gap above this kind of rising wedge-ish pattern there. I'm not sure what it wants to do here. I don't see a ton of upside in the near term. But JP Morgan's strong. If JP Morgan is strong, XLF is going to hold up okay. We talked about some of the other banks here. Morgan Stanley got a little bit of a bid. That's a weak chart. Goldman got a bid here too. I don't see a ton of upside here on Goldman though. 340, that's a good level. So that's your breakdown area. In fact, we can just take this line and move that right down now. That's good. That's good resistance there. 250 and pivot low. Not a bad area there on Goldman for a possible short or put play there. But, you know, if JP Morgan holds up, Fins will hold up for the most part. But anyways, broker-dealers, XBD, again, weekly bear flag. Nothing's changed there. Over to crude. Excuse me, crude's hanging in there. It's trying to consolidate underneath that 200 moving average. I'm not doing anything with crude right now. You know, it's got to fill that gap, but it's, you know, it's holding up well. And this can consolidate. If it consolidates, it can go higher. That doesn't mean that it won't come back down and fill that gap later. It just means that right now, this isn't, you know, you hit that 200 moving average and it's still kind of technically overbought, but you're not seeing a sharp reaction, right? It's just hanging in there. That tells me it probably wants to consolidate more. I just wouldn't buy it up here because you're just so high on the hog already. And you are into resistance here. By the way, it's 3:30, so we got an hour and a half left, but remember that old pivot, 82.72, look where we are right now. So watch that at 5 o'clock. My guess is the bears are probably going to be able to hold it, and the reason I say that is because if it was going to break out, it would have done it at like 10 o'clock this morning. It would have just shot right through it. Most likely, anyway. Doesn't mean they can't ram it in there last minute, but usually they don't wait to do things. That usually they'll punch it up really quickly and they'll keep it above that. But watch that pivot going into 5 o'clock if you're still around. I'll definitely be revisiting it in the weekend video. XLE is flat. Again, established above the 100, so that's reclaimed trend that's hanging in there. XOP on the weaker side. Not as much of a fan of that right now. OIH still a hot mess. I'm not even touching that one. Nat gas, interesting day here today. It's actually at the highs of the day right now. And I want to show you, so I talked about this yesterday, I did a video, got a really good response from that video, by the way, too, about the dollar index. And, you know, it's I'm pretty sure that there's something to that. So if we look at the DXY this morning, let's just go to an intraday. You know, we were basically sideways all night, and we rallied up, and then we started to sell off, and then we got that big bid this morning after Waller made those comments right on the button of those retail sales numbers too. And if we look at Nat gas started to puke, and look where it stopped. We came up here, and then it started to bid up with the dollar, and it's been surging with the dollar all day long. You know, what does that mean? It's an odd correlation, but I think what it means is the algos are programmed to look at nat gas and say, or look at the dollar index and say, Europe is going to have to pay more for LNG. Really, it's that simple to me. And it's very interesting though. But nat gas coming off the lows, it's just loving that dollar weakness. Look at nat gas intraday. It's just loving that dollar, or that DXY strength. Possible Wyckoff pattern here too, by the way. 4-hour time frame, low. 1, 2, 3, and then the stop run, and then a big outside move on the 4-hour weekly time frame. They're defending that $2 handle with volume again. So I mean, the sellers, you know, here's the thing, you know, everybody's saying when nat gas is going to 150. Maybe it is, but how many chances the sellers had? They've had 3-4 weeks now to push this through here, and they haven't been able to do it. So there's an old saying, if you're not going to break down, you're going to break out. We'll see if that happens here, but nice reversal for Natty. Speaking of the dollar index, what have we been talking about for a long time now? But double bottom. So we got to double bottom and Thinkorswim. As soon as that dollar index chart closes, it puts a doji into my feed, which is annoying me. But we're into that double bottom there. And we got a reaction off that. So I can't rule out a little bit more downside in the DXY here. I would have preferred it to get down to that kind of like 100, 150 handle. But this is a nice reaction. We'll see if this gets going. I'm very interested to see this moving forward, though. DXY and that nat gas relationship is very interesting. First you got to get through these moving averages here, 102.50, 103. If you get above that, you can consolidate and push higher. But DXY did hit the double bottom. Gold obviously coming in, basically an engulfing reversal there. On the daily, did finish off the lows, and it's still holding trend. So no real problems just yet. On the weekly, though, that's an inside, it's going to close inside of last week's move. So it tried to get up to the highs, and it's actually red on the week, believe it or not. If you'd asked anybody, ask somebody, how much gold is up this week, they probably say, oh, gold is surging right now. It's probably up a ton this week. It's actually red on the week now after one day. And silver, same thing. Well, silver's still actually green on the week, but pretty good reversal there. Outside move down. Again, just went into a wall of resistance up here. So this should work its way down to at least these pivots and possibly that 24 handle there on that weekly and daily time frame. Platinum here, also backing off the highs, inside pattern here. Nothing wrong if this consolidates. Guess what? It can go higher, but right now, just a pause day there, so no problems with PL at the moment. And then copper here was higher earlier, got all the way up to the 420 handle. Where'd it get? All the way up to 419.55, and then all the way back to close as an inside day. I'm not touching this right now. I don't like the pattern. It's been very erratic here. Ultimately, I still think it needs to get down to that 375 handle, though. Nothing has changed on that front. On to Bitcoin here. So Bitcoin hanging in there at that 30,500 handle. A little bit of a doji there on the daily, no problems. Again, if this consolidates further, you can look for 32 to 32.5. That's really all I see for now, but it's holding up okay, so we'll respect it. All right. So market's closing about 20 minutes here. It looks like we're holding up right now. I see the Russell bidding on my screen there. Yeah, we should just kind of finish in this range, I would say. Overall, there's no consequence whether we sell a little bit or bid up a little bit here before the end of the day. Again, nothing's changed. We're just looking for probably a neutral to upside bias next week, maybe even one more thrust in this market. But then we're going to get into what I would say is another risk period. So got to be careful moving forward, and there are red flags out there for sure. Anyways, guys, going to wrap it up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. I'll talk to you all next week.